Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast. It's episode 263, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. It is May 24th. You're watching... We're almost halfway through the year already. Jeez. You're watching it on the 25th or later, Bless's Early Access Day. Right? Wait, is that right? Is that tomorrow? I thought it was... Wait, that's Sunday. No, that's Monday.
It's next week.
It's Monday,
right?
Yes, the 28th.
Yeah.
28th, because it launches 30. 28th is the early access for the Founders Pack. So yeah, Monday. We're Tuesday. We're what day? Monday. We're a few days away.
What day is it?
I don't even know why we care, because Jason Winter on the line doesn't care about Bless Online, does he?
That was exactly going to be my point. It's like, I don't care what you guys are going on about. I give no shits.
I got all excited. I was like, I think that's tomorrow. It's
not even remotely.
It's available May 30th, and the
And in 3 months, nobody else will be either.
So Monday. Well, now I'm not excited anymore, Zach. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty excited for Bless. I mean, I'm going to be playing Dauntless today after the cast, but
Yeah,
I'll be looking forward to some Bless.
Today is the big day for Dauntless.
It is.
Open beta. Wait, not really a topic to talk about because it's just Dauntless is in open beta. We've given our opinions on the game in previous free-to-play casts and in a first look video. Jason will be writing a little something about it just to talk about some changes that may have happened and some of the things we griped about, where they addressed, where they fixed, where they changed. There were monetization changes, so I'm sure, Jason, you're going to talk about that in an article, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show when that piece is up. But there's not anything really new to add besides open beta started today. Which Founders Pack are you buying for Bless, Zach?
I'm buying this the starter. That's it.
Are you?
Yeah, just because the premium plus the standard edition is basically saving me $5 versus buying 1 month of premium and the base box price, and I get in early, so.
Right. Yeah, I got the I'm gonna get the collector's one.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, my
You're
name
buy
will,
11 of them, just like WildStar?
my name will be in the credits. My name will be in the credits. I should probably go look at what my Steam name is, because that's where they're taking it from, and I mean, I would assume it's mine, but let's get started with the news. Boy, that was a digression and a half, wasn't it?
Free-to-play cast, we're talking about buy-to-play games.
Right.
I figure.
Right. I think maybe I'll give my free copy that comes with that to Troy. I think that's what I should do.
Do you want to keep him as a friend?
Yeah, that's a good call. Maybe I want. All right, so the first big story actually was a big story after last week's show. We had already recorded. It had already gone up. And if I'm not mistaken, it kind of like snuck out. When I go back and look at it, Jason, it really wasn't like, hey guys, here was it. It was like, this is just information. Just
Tencent just bought us.
it just kind of snuck out late Friday, and so we couldn't talk about it on last week's show because it was already recorded. So we'll talk about it today. Tencent, the company we jokingly referred to as owning everything video game related last week, now owns everything video game related, as they picked up majority share, approximately 80%, of Grinding Gear Games, meaning Path of Exile, now under the Tencent umbrella. Now, this isn't entirely new because Tencent had already been involved in publishing Path of Exile in China. I mean, it's pretty much responsible for publishing any Western-related game in China to help navigate those laws. But now they've actually picked up controlling shares of the company. So I want to get your initial reactions to that one, Jason. Just the initial buyout.
Just being not surprised, as you said. Tencent owned a little bit of everything and owned, or was working with Grinding Gear Games in the first place. As someone who was into Path of Exile a lot, not a lot, as I know some people are like, as Chris Wilson tells me, the 16-hour-a-day people. But I was into it a fair amount, played it a good bit, liked it. And I wasn't like, oh my god, this guy's falling, I can never play again, which is a lot of what I'm seeing like on Reddit and even in our comments and so forth. I just gave it a sort of because you look at a lot of other games out there, a lot of other companies and big game companies that that are owned or at least partially owned by Tencent, and you don't go, oh man, they're just doing everything to please their Chinese masters or whatever. One of the articles I read on Kotaku actually mentioned, hey, remember when PUBG and Fortnite were kind of going at each other for a while there? Tencent owns a little bit of Epic Games and Bluehole, so
Yeah.
they didn't really care. It's like, yeah, they do own just about everything. So again, unless you don't want to play just about anything, there's no reason to stop playing Path of Exile, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think, they have the reputation, Zach, of obviously super conglomerate, bordering on monopoly at this point. I mean, it is getting ridiculous to the point of Tencent ownership here. But they don't have, and I hate to say this because I'm really enjoying Neverwinter currently. Ravenloft, hell yeah. Too bad I play on the PlayStation 4, so it won't come out till like October. But it doesn't have the reputation that, like, a Perfect World Entertainment buyout has. Where, I mean, Perfect World snagged 3% of Digital Extremes. And Jason, remember, people were like, oh my god, loot boxes is gonna be a mess! Gonna be a mess! And they own 3% of Digital Extremes. Tencent doesn't have that. You may not like them, you may think they're too big, you may think, with the international stuff, maybe that creates conflicts of interest and things like that. But as far as the games themselves, I didn't see League of Legends change much. I don't see Fortnite having things crammed down your throat. To me, Tencent doesn't have the reputation that, a Nexon or an Area or a Perfect World Entertainment does. And so the buyout for this one, for what we generally consider like the pinnacle of free-to-play done right in a lot of cases, besides some ridiculously overpriced supporters packs, which we think is just more funny than anything, I'm not particularly nervous. Am I wrong, Zach?
I don't think so. I don't. Okay, so I have two views on this. One, Tencent is just brilliant at what they're doing. They're investing in a lot of successful projects and reaping the benefits of those projects over time. Now, the information on how much they spent in order to get the share, I don't think is out there. And I don't think it's out there for pretty much any of the investments that they do unless you go digging a lot further. But it makes me wonder whether or not they tried for complete ownership, or they just got to 80 and Grinding Gear was like, no, we want to make sure that we have still a percentage share of the company.
Right.
You're not going to own us completely, even though they do now have control of the company being at 80% share. So that's why I kind of I respect Tencent for doing that, because that's a great business choice. But on the other hand, if I was Grinding Gear, I wouldn't want to give up 80% in complete control of my company, even if that control is going to be very hands-off, because you never know. One day Tencent might change and they might get greedy and want to go in there and change things, even though historically, looking at all the examples that you provided, like League of Legends, Epic, and also PUBG, that hasn't really occurred yet. But it could, and that's the problem I see with this. But I don't think there's much of a concern as of right now that bad possibility will occur.
This company is so fucking big, Jason.
Yes.
So big.
I like the numbers that the Kotaku article said. It said Tencent published first quarter profits of $3.65 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And it compares that to ActiBliz reporting $500 million and EA $566 million. So that's like 7 times bigger than those guys.
I mean,
who we think of as
their hands
enormous.
In everything. And particularly in video games now. It is a little worrisome when one company starts owning that many pieces of everything else. I mean, looking at it at a smaller scale, right, we all get nervous when EA starts buying up developers. Tencent's doing the same thing, the exact same thing, just at the moment they don't have the track record for then destroying the developers and those games that EA has. Whether they deserve it or not, that's the perception. The one thing I will say, Jason, that I agree with every person that has made this particular gripe so far for Path of Exile fans, and I hope nothing changes with the game. I love it the way it is as far as the free-to-play model and everything. And I believe, based on past experience, that they will probably keep it that way, at least for the foreseeable future. The one gripe that I do kind of go, yeah, I'm on your side with that one on this whole buyout, Jason, is the people that really supported Path of Exile and Grinding Gear Games, because they were a very passionate indie little, smaller developer on a pet project, and this was their livelihood. They love this. They want to do this. They're monetizing it the right way, so I'm going to throw out a couple of bucks to them. Now your couple of bucks is predominantly going to mega global corporation, nameless face, Tencent. And I can certainly understand that feeling of, I don't know if I would call it betrayal, because I'm pretty sure this was really hard for Grinding Gear Games to say no dollar-wise to this deal. But I can certainly feel that kind of, well, then don't you dare put up any more supporter packs, because you don't need that type of support anymore. You're now part of the machine. You're a business. You need to make money. We get it. But don't you dare play that card anymore. You've lost the ability to play that card. I see that argument. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, at least for the future. Like when you were starting to talk about it, I was thinking you were going to say like, oh, well, I paid my money and now it goes to the big Chinese company. Well, in the past, it went to the guys in New Zealand. Yeah. But so don't regret your former purchases and how it enabled them to be bought out or whatever.
No, I'm looking more towards future. Don't label anything as a fucking supporter pack to me anymore. And Zach, I mean, that may just mean they changed the name, right? Nothing about the practices change. It's just instead of supporters pack, it's now big fan guy pack. That may be it. Don't you dare use that word to me anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's why this particular deal does worry me a little bit more than the other ones, because a lot of the supporter packs were there as sort of a goodwill, plus you get stuff as, rewards type deal. It wasn't really something that's necessary in order to continue playing the game at a certain level, like a lot of other games where you pay them money to get bonuses, for instance. So when you look at the fact that these supporter packs are far more expensive than normal, packs are across other games, you gotta wonder how much goodwill the community will have to keep purchasing those at the same rate that they were in the past. And so I wonder, bottom line wise, what this is going to do for Grinding Gear Games now that they are majority owned by Tencent, versus this being their own entity. Being able to say, hey, we actually do need your money. We're not owned by a big company, because now they are owned by a big company, and majority-wise owned by a big company. It's not just like they bought 30%; they bought a whole 80%. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward how much those packs change, if they change at all. I hope they don't. I hope the community just keeps spending the same amount of money, so we keep seeing the same content release from this game, because Path of Exile is a fantastic game, but we'll just have to see.
I mean, there are a couple things. One is that it's not like they don't need to not keep making money.
Right.
Yes, Tencent is going to support them, but if they go and make $500 in the next month, Tencent is going to not support them any longer. And the other point I wonder is, you'd think this sort of thing is sort of like planned out, at least to some degree, by big mega corporations when they buy a smaller indie kind of company. Like, they have to know that there is going to be some of that social, public backlash, and maybe they think it's not that much. Maybe it's only be like 5% of the people are going to be so angry that they're going to they're going to stop playing or whatever, but they still think they'll get pretty much the same kind of monetary projections. I mean, how's Warframe been doing since they were maybe acquired by a Chinese company, although they can't confirm that apparently? Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anybody really talk about that for the last 2 years or whatever since that happened. So.
Right, well, and speaking of the Warframe thing, what Jason's referring to is we got a presser, Zach, for some Warframe news. Just, generic launch of X thing. Typical presser. And it billed the company still, and this was like last week or a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it billed the company as an independent Canadian developer and publisher. And so I reached out to my press release, my press contact there, and I said, hey, just out of curiosity, this, because all the Daybreak shit happened, right? And who owned them. And I said, just out of curiosity, how are you still billing yourself as Digital Extremes as an independent Canadian developer and publisher? You're not. A year and a half ago, you were purchased to the tune of 97% from Leu
Technologies,
Technologies, and 3% to Perfect World Entertainment. You're like the definition of not independent anymore, to the tune of 100% not independent. It's not even like Grinding Gear, who says, well, we still own some of our stuff. To this day, with 3 different follow-up emails, I didn't ask a hard question. I didn't even ask who owns you. I told them who owns them. I've just said, why are you still using that? That's kind of misleading. That portrays a good thing PR-wise in people's mind, doesn't it? In the gaming world, you like to hear that somebody's an independent, but that's just not the case. It's not even remotely true. So why are you still using that? I can't get an answer. It's really bizarre. I can't. It took 3 emails for them to even reply to me over the course of 2 weeks, and the reply was, "Oh, my guy's been out of town. He's now back. I'll contact him and I'll get you an answer to the question." How is it? How hard is it to go? Yeah, we probably shouldn't really be using that anymore. Thanks for pointing it out. And just bite the shit sandwich you made and walk away. Or if I'm wrong about who owns you, tell me. In which case, we'll have our own Daybreak story. Anyway, back to Tencent. Jason, I'm totally with you. They do need to make money, and I'm not taking that away from them. I just don't ever want to see Grinding Gear going forward playing on that supporter role. That's the piece. I don't regret any money I spent in there before. And the only reason I have no problem with games saying, hey, support our game, buy this pack. That's advertisement. I think the difference that I have here, and this may be just personally, and maybe I'm overanalyzing it, Jason, is that Grinding Gear Games has pointed all of their products as not just like hey, if you like our game, throw us a couple of bucks, but we are dependent upon these. That's been their kind of angle. We're dependent on you supporters to keep this going. And the reality of the situation is, from here on out, you aren't. You're dependent that you must remain profitable, but you are not in danger of getting the lights shut off tomorrow if a bunch of people don't buy Founders Packs, which is may not have been the case, but that's kind of the way you've always presented yourself. I just don't want to see them taking that tack anymore. You don't get to with this buyout.
Yeah, that's why that with the founder, like the supporter packs, I just see maybe the big whales dropping from like half their initial revenue, so like from $1,000 pack down to like a 500, for instance,
right.
Like just dropping down a tier possibly for the short term. Long term, if they generate enough goodwill that no, we're not changing, we still need your support, maybe that will ramp back up. But out of all the games that Tencent's acquired, this one's definitely going to be the most interesting to watch moving forward, for sure.
Jason, we've always kind of had the question, like, how do they make money and do they make money, right? And we've gotten some silly answers here and there. I think this answers the question, right? Because Tencent was responsible for publishing this game in China. If it wasn't making money, Tencent would not have acquired this company. And sure. Tencent had access to that data, being the Chinese publisher. So, quite frankly, they were probably raking in money hand over fist with no problem, to the point of Tencent wanting to pick them up, right? It's safe to assume that then.
Yeah, and now Chris Wilson has his retirement fund.
Now, if you don't want to support them because of what? They're connected to that whole social credit system? That's an entire different thing, and we'll let you do the research on that one. You can do it in our article on mmobomb.com. Before we move on from I got Neverwinter on the brain, I guess. From Path of Exile, they're floating the idea of a con. Want to go to Path of Exile? PoCon. PoCon.
PoCon?
What are they going to call it? Exile Con, I guess?
I think that it was an Exile Con.
That would sound a little better than PoCon. I would think so. Or GGG Con. Yeah, Exile Con's probably the way to go. Now, they're looking at, this is still far off, like November of next year, 2019. How do you feel about this, Jason? Is this, does this rank up there with like, Final Fantasy Fan Fest and the EverQuest cons and, BlizzCon's its own different thing because that's an entire company and a big library, but those individual Minecraft and what do you think? Path of Exile. You going to Exile Con?
Oh yeah, I'm totally going.
Get that passport ready.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking about. Is that it feels to me like almost like some of those other game or game company cons located, and then North American centric, sure. So I think of them as the stuff located outside the U.S. Stuff like Eve Fan Fest, or we just did a piece on Rune Fest for Jagex for RuneScape. It feels like those kind of things where clearly they have enough people at those kind of shows to make the shows, and enough people willing to travel probably from the U.S. and a lot from Europe and so forth. So I guess why not? If you can do that and get people to go all the way down to New Zealand, hey, good for you guys.
Are you going, Zach? Any interest?
No, but I do agree with Jason that it's definitely going to probably feel like more like a Room Fest type thing, where it's a decently sized event, but it's nothing major like a BlizzCon or something like that. But I've been wondering why this hasn't been a thing for the past couple of years, because I mean this game has been very successful, and if they want to do it, this is definitely a great time to start doing it, because especially with their last few updates, they just brought in a flood of new players and have been really doing a great job. So
they probably didn't do it in the past because it would have been an expensive kind of risk. So they if only they would have gotten some more money somehow. That's
why now is the perfect time.
Yeah.
I will say this, by the way, on Tencent, they didn't really have great news last month, or I think it was the end of March. Something like that. End of March, beginning of April. Like right when Facebook was taking a beating here in the States financially, Tencent lost, a bunch of money in a couple of weeks, like to the tune of 70 billion, as far as market value and things like that. Now they've said they're kind of caught in the middle because they're China's biggest tech people, right? They're kind of caught in the middle of Facebook and all these other companies taking a security beating, and then they also publicly they missed earnings and they said, hey, we're investing in AI and stuff like this, and this is the type of stuff that we're sinking a lot of money into right now that isn't going to have a short-term burst of revenue. We're playing the long game. So Tencent kind of, here's the interesting thing, I just thought of this, Jason. We'll get to see some portion of, hopefully, right, Grinding Gears numbers. Tencent's publicly traded.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, how much do they break out their various stuff?
I don't know.
Wonder.
I've never really watched them.
I want to say I've got them bookmarked here, so let me just see.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe we could possibly see something, because as soon as you see, Grinding Gear games, it's Path of Exile. That's all that's there. While he's looking that up, Zach, though, how fast do you think that Path of Exile Battle Royale thing was that they took out of the game? What's the time until that becomes its own standalone game now that Tencent has bought this?
I would say within the next 6 to 8 months, because they were floating bringing it back just to begin with.
Right.
So now that they've been acquired by a company that does have some Battle Royale offerings, I think it's going to come back. Not necessarily as a standalone game, but maybe as a launcher option of some sort.
Well, that would still make it standalone. It'd just be
technically
launcher.
Technically not if it's within the same client, but
they could hide it there.
Yeah.
Hey, click on B. I mean, that's what Fortnite does, right?
With
Fortnite and Fortnite Battle Royale, that's exactly what they do.
Yep.
All right, so moving on. Jason, you got anything there? We're going to move on.
I mean, looking through their section they have in their last report on online games, they do mention 40 million people on Fortnite, but that's again stuff that we already knew. Otherwise, they don't really break it out by game or something. So.
We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get a peek. Just an update very quickly. We've had an awful lot of everybody's emails getting bombarded with privacy policy updates right now. Everybody's. From every game I've ever put my address in or my MMO bomb email address in, I'm getting updates from them and everything. Obviously, that's because of some of the laws changing overseas, and those go into effect, tomorrow, I believe, the 25th. So congratulations there. On the flip side, we're seeing a lot of games shut down. A lot of games and a lot of smaller games, and it continues. And now is leaking into mobile, which I think is where the biggest impact's going to end up being. Not because of the privacy stuff, though, Jason. It's loot boxes that cause Webzen, of all people, to withdraw from mobile markets. Now, this is relatively small, right? This is just in the Netherlands. Mu Origin going away, just in the Netherlands. Now, if you have it, you can still play it. but you won't be able to download it or find it in the store starting June 20th. And they cited the lockbox stuff.
Yeah, this was something we reported on a little while ago about how the Netherlands had come up with. Basically, they decided that the loot boxes were illegal now, so they're going to have a deadline for games to remove them from. Getting my prepositions mixed up. You know what I mean? They had a deadline. You got to take your loot boxes out by then. And Mu Origin or Webzen is saying we're just going to remove the game entirely then. So, but the question, as you're pointing to, is how many other games are going to be making announcements similar to this, not only from the Netherlands, but if other countries start to take the same kind of approach, then what else happens?
And Zach, that's kind of where I wanted to take the discussion here, because you may look at it and go, it's a mobile game. It's the Netherlands. We're not talking about a huge population. We're not talking about a huge audience of Mu Origin. Like the Netherlands, they're just crazy about Mu Origin. Every single one of them in the Netherlands plays it. No, I mean, relatively small population in comparison to everything. So very easy to see that, okay, if just this one country, it's just not profitable for us to make any type of changes. We're just going to extract from that market totally. And so I can see this particular decision being very easy. However, you're not off the hook. There are a lot of EU countries that are seriously considering this type of legislation. And I don't think we're done on the topic here in the United States either. In which case, these decisions start to become harder and harder and harder to make if you want to offer a product to make any money at all. I don't think... Wow. I heard the sentence I was about to say in my head before I said it and realized there's no way our viewers are going to not jump on this if I say it this way. I was going to say that the companies maybe need to realize that pulling out isn't always the answer. And then was like, I can't say that way. But you get my point, right? At some point, you've got to make a decision to either change the practices in the game, in your products going forward, or not be in the game business at all. And I can't believe that's an option for a company like Webzen. So where's the line, Zach? When's the tipping point? When's the change come versus the shut down and we'll ignore them?
You just got to commit and stay in, Mike. I mean, that's just the easiest answer right there. Sorry, I had to. Anyhow, when it really
Is that your tip?
Oh my god! I hate you both.
All right, so when it really comes down to it, these companies, I think it's going to be an easier and easier decision to make as more and more, countries decide to hop on this type of legislation, because it's going to become more and more of a percentage of their overall revenue. So they're going to be able to say, okay, well, now it makes sense for us to change our monetization strategy here, and it's not going to cost as much relative to the revenue as it would for one particular country, being like the Netherlands. So I think overall, it's not really that big of a deal if more and more countries hop on it. But I think over the short term, we are going to see, as individual countries, bring out legislation regarding this, they're going to shut down temporarily and then maybe prop back up in the future, depending on how much of a percentage of revenue is affected by this change. And then obviously smaller companies that very much rely on lockboxes are going to shut down just completely.
And I've been asking, Jason, you've seen, I've been asking the question behind the scenes to companies already. Not expecting official answers or anything yet, but just what are your thoughts? What are you guys doing in anticipation of some of the laws that we already see on the books overseas, some of them that we're seeing potentially coming and very likely? I've asked, I've been playing a lot of Neverwinter, and I reached out to my contacts at PWE and said, obviously your loot box stuff isn't going to fly in some of these countries anymore. What are you guys doing? And they weren't ready to make any type of public comment or anything, so I can't share with you anything these companies have said. In fact, I'll tell you, most of them have just said nothing. Hey, we don't have a statement right now. But it's definitely on the plate for everybody right now, Jason.
Mm-hmm. And you wonder how many of them might just do because the supposed fine for this is 820,000 euros, which is about $1 million. So it's like, if you're making more than $1 million in your loot boxes, you're just going to say, hell with it, sure, we'll pay. Whatever.
Oh, is $1 million? You do realize I make 17 million. You know what? Never mind. Oh my God, this is so painful. Here, Check. Oh.
Now, as you said, it is just the Netherlands, so you might not be
Right.
making $1 million in the Netherlands. So maybe then you might think, what's the point of, altering your client or whatever in the Netherlands to do this? So it's probably still might be cheaper just to pay the $1 million. So
I tell you what, the companies that aren't on the ball looking at alternate monetization plans right now are in for a world of hurt, I think, over the next 2 years.
Didn't they announce a Battlefield 5 that wasn't going to have wasn't going to have loot boxes? I think.
I didn't watch any of that.
Yep, they announced pretty much their. I mean, there has to be some surprise, but yeah, there's no loot boxes. The premium pass is gone, so yeah.
All right, moving on
waiting.
before we finish up today. Talk about derpity derp derp derp. Egg on the face in the worst way possible, right? So Hi-Rez Studios, makers of Smite and Paladins, they take a lot of flack, right? And you know what? They have a great sense of humor over there. Everybody that is the public face of that company has great sense of humor. Todd Harris has been in some fantastically funny videos, cosplay videos. Some were misses, but some I didn't. Most are misses, but I did enjoy the. Oh, you feel the same way? I did enjoy the cosplay one. I thought that was pretty funny. But they have a good sense of humor about it, even up to the point of they're willing to take the whole Overwatch clone beating that they take on the internet with a certain smile on their face and treat it funny. And I can respect them for that, absolutely. We have a lot of respect for them. That said, I don't care how much you trust anybody you outsource something to, ever. You always check when it comes back. Jason has written articles for me in one way, shape, or form for years now. I still spot check him. And it's not because I don't think he's doing what he's supposed to do. It's because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. So when you outsource art to a third party for your mobile game, Paladin's Strike, and you get it back, and you publish it, and it turns out it has images from Overwatch ripped and put into it, you kind of deserve what you get there, right? I feel like Hi-Rez kind of deserved this one. And they made the statement, too, after the fact. They said, we're very disappointed that a contractor for our mobile hero shooter Paladin Strike made use of artwork from another game. They didn't even say what game. Another game in the splash art for our Covert Ops Lex skin. Unfortunately, as this piece came from what was previously a trusted outsourcer, it did not go through a previously trusted outsourcer. It did
previously
not
employed outsourcer.
Right?
Even.
They did sever ties. It did not go through a full internal review cycle at Hi-Rez and made it to the public. And Zach, you've got to be going, of all the fucking games, it had to be Overwatch. It had to be Overwatch that you stole a background of a city from. It wasn't even something special, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where everyone calls them, copycats, and now they basically have gotten caught literally just control seeing, or not them, but a contractor control seeing and control being image from a game that is very similar to their game, and it's silly, but I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, Jason, I just hear tears at the office when this article breaks. They're just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding.
Where's your funny video now, Stu?
The Hi-Rez did sever ties with the contractor responsible for it, which I guess kind of makes sense. But, not to be outdone, I did then see Hi-Rez employees posting on Twitter pictures of their pass, and they shot half of the pass and just the word watch on it, implying that the rest said Overwatch. It didn't, but they implied, oh my god, now even our name badges. You gotta love that they take it like that, although this was a really stupid one, and you kind of deserved it no matter how trusted they are. You paid them. Check it. You paid them. Let's move over into the weekly bombs. Jason, you're up.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to Lunark Studios, which is a little company that makes a card game, kind of RTS card game sort of thing called Prismata, which we covered a few years ago. You even did a first look on it, but it's been like an early access. It's still paid, so we haven't really covered it much. They say they're going to go free to play. They just don't quite have the capacity to do so yet. But anyway, over the weekend, or like last week, they said to give out some free keys, and they had more demand for it than they thought they would. So eventually they said, well, we'll just do a free weekend on Steam. Let's just do that instead.
Well, you told me at the time that you didn't think this game would ever become big shit. I thought differently, and I think one of us is right.
Oh, so they went from having about 200 concurrent players on Steam to 120,000.
Oh!
Like overnight.
Wow.
Which put them where?
Number 4 on Steam, according to that.
Who called this one? They're fantastic. It's the greatest game ever. Well, fourth greatest game ever.
Not so much. Apparently, the guy behind the studio, what's his name? Mr. Elliot. Elliot, I don't have his last name up here, but anyway, he posted on Reddit. He said, how my tiny indie game became number 4 on Steam, thanks to Russian card farming bots and a promotion gone wrong. So that's what happened. Apparently, when it became free, it still had Steam cards available as drops. So in came all the people who have so a lot of them you were using apparently like bot programs to let them appear to be on Steam and collect the cards, and they could sell the cards for a few cents and probably make thousands of dollars or whatever just by running these programs, letting them sit on Steam, even though they weren't in the game. Like Elliot looked at his own metrics and saw there weren't that many people in the game. So that's what happened. He got up over 120,000 people, but it does have a good ending in that he says he did get about 20,000 legitimate people. And if you look at Steam charts now, they're averaging around a couple thousand, like 2,000, 3,000 regular players. So, the free weekend and a little bit of publicity they got from a few other sites reporting on this turned out kind of okay in the end. And he's taking, because they get a cut for all the Steam cards that are, I don't know, awarded or bought, whatever. They're going to take that money and put it back into a prize program. So good for them.
Very cool. Well, I called it that would be a top 10.
Yeah,
Steam.
sure you did. Yeah, sure.
Elliot Grant, is that who it is?
Grant, that's it. Yeah.
Good guy. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to Steam's spring cleaning event. Basically, it's like a sale of sorts, but there's some games that are available for free throughout the entire weekend. So games like City Skylines, Dead by Daylight, Dirt 4, and more are free this weekend for you to check out. And personally, you need to check out City Skylines if you haven't got around to it. It's one of the best city builders of all time, and definitely the best one in recent memory. So really good game.
I play that on the PlayStation 4.
I think it's funny that the spring cleaning sale they're giving away dirt.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to Epic Games for spending mad copious amounts of cash. Particularly, we reported that they're going to be spending about $100 million integrating Fortnite into the esports scene and in prize pools and things like that, with a particular focus on accessibility. They don't want it to be a super elite thing, so that's cool. But more particularly, they're doing a charity event with a $3 million prize pool for charity. I think that's stupendous and fantastic. So double them to Epic Games for stuff like that. And by the way, that $3 million is not part of the $100 million that they're looking to spend this year on Fortnite. But I guess from Super Data's data, this is chump change to them, right?
Oh yeah, that was like what was it? What was it today? Like, they didn't have to give a number. Oh yeah, it was like $300 million what they made over the month. In a month, they made that much.
There's $296 million in April.
Yeah.
So,
but if, like you're saying, if they're going to do accessibility, then they should probably have like an over 40s category for people with bad reflexes. It's like how some sports have like a junior competition or something like that. This would be the seniors competition. There you go.
Hydreg Sky Shadow from the viewer says, I have an A-bomb to Activision Blizzard, mostly because I don't get it. Now that COD Black Ops 4 is on the Blizzard app, that means that COD is now canon Blizzard universe? God forkin' damn it, I hope not. But with all honesty, I don't get what Activision Blizzard is. Can someone explain this to dumbass on the internet? Also, a bomb to Heroes of the Storm for the new event. It looks hilariously fun and dumb at the same time, but at the same time an inconvenient A-bomb because it starts at the same time the Overwatch 2-year anniversary starts. Well, fork. Yeah, Hydrex, you are all over Activision Blizzard today. All over them. I don't think that makes Call of Duty Blizzard canon universe.
Didn't they change it back to Battle.net anyhow?
Yeah, the launcher is all the Battle.net stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
Nintendo says this website uses cookies. Eats cookie. Classic Jason. Thank you. A-bomb to BT or everything. BT, everything has or needs BR nowadays. It's absolutely disgusting how this trend is worse than the open world zombie survival trend. Even World of Tanks has such a mode or is planning one. They just have like a 30 on 30 mode. It's not really about right. If your game has no outstanding features, put Battle Royale in and hope you won't do the Cliffy B. Don't do the Cliffy B.
Sounds like an awful 90s dance. Go ahead, Zach.
Student Yao, I maybe butchered it. I don't know.
Don't you know your anime terms?
No, I really don't. Jason's cookies momentum was unbearable.
I agree. Not a fan. Blade Slasher says, A-bomb to Activision for their Battle Royale mode in Call of Duty. I hope that other companies do not follow suit with their games and add a Battle Royale mode to their games. Please. Yeah, it is well, we've been talking about it for months now that we've left the age of the MOBA and now we're in Battle Royale. Go ahead, Jason.
When did the age of the CCG fit into that?
Well, that's kind of an overlapping era.
Oh, okay.
That's
when
still
they do the
going
excavation 1,000 years from now,
right.
Digging through the piles of internet, they're gonna find it.
Right.
It's like, okay. I
always give you the great ones.
Yeah. Mega Bondage Freak says, congratulations, you only spent 20 minutes on Boss Key. You could have easily talked for another 20, showing some great restraint.
We tried, see?
Well,
we were told, oh, great, they're going to do 30. I promised we wouldn't do 30. We did 20.
Mega Bondage Freak, there's a lot to talk about, both good and bad, with Boss Key. So, I mean, you could say there are 50 Shades of Grey.
I was proud of us, Jason. We kept it to 20. Go ahead, Zach.
Breckener Catalan says, A-bomb to the beta testers for WoW's new expansion for defending Blizzard's every move, even their lack of bug fixing for bugs that have been blocking main storyline progression for weeks. The White Knight odor is strong on those servers. One such individual commented on my complaint with a dry, "They don't owe you anything." That left me speechless.
No, they kind of do.
Yeah, they owe a lot.
Yeah, they kind of do, actually. When we're talking about you want me to buy the game and I'm testing it for you and giving you feedback and you're not fixing it, why would I buy it? I think that's like the definition of they owe it right then, Jason. The question of the week last week. We've got a lot coming up. What are you the most excited about and why? Defiance 2050, Lost Ark, Ascent Infinite Realm, etc., etc. What are you waiting for? Hydrex Sky Shadows says, question of the week. I wish I could be excited about Lost Ark, but for fork's sake, it was announced 4 years ago. And it's you hear next to nothing about the game. But if it will actually release and it will be free, not like Bless, that would be awesome. I mean, just look at the game. It's Diablo on coffee, energy drinks, and steroids. Besides, I lost all hope for a good new free MMORPG.
Yes, abandon all hope.
Go ahead, Jason.
Nasalgra says, the games I'm looking forward to are MapleStory 2 and Imperia Chronicles. I want a new game or one that is at least new to the West that has a wider variety of content than standard theme parks, doesn't take itself too seriously with an art style to match, and has some form of user-created content to keep the game fresh. Imperia looks especially awesome as the content creation tools they've shown in a recent video look like legitimate dev tools. My biggest concerns about both boil down to 3 words: published by Nexon.
That is my concern. I'm not so interested in MapleStory 2. Obviously, I am for MMO bombs, just not personally, but Imperia Chronicles definitely one I'm watching as well. Personally. Go ahead, Zach.
Stoner Something says, just waiting for RuneScape Mobile and Battle Royale to die. Funny thing about RuneScape Mobile is I'm not sure whether or not I influenced that because like 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the Chronicle event, and I told them Albion Online's coming out. It's going to be on mobile. Why isn't RuneScape on mobile? And I mentioned it and talked to him how he could do it. And then they'd come out with a version for mobile. I'm not going to take all credit, but
Pretty sure it was all you.
So
could've
blame
been.
Zach.
could have been.
Blame
Nintendo
Zach.
says, question of the week, I'm still waiting for anything Lost Ark EUNA related. I might as well hand in my retirement papers, though, since it won't come out before that. Jason, finish it up.
Squeezy, that's with 3 E's, unless you spelled it wrong, copied it.
No,
What do you think?
it's with
No?
3.
Okay. Squeeze, he says, not super excited about any free-to-play games being released, but if I had to pick one, it would be either Dauntless or Magic the Gathering Arena. As for games in general, probably Monster Hunter World when it launches on PC.
Well, you got your Dauntless open beta today. Magic the Gathering Arena, we still got a while for. Also, one that I didn't even think about, Jason, that we still have zero information on is Perfect World Entertainment's Magic the Gathering inspired MMORPG.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that for a while.
So the question of the week this week, what does Tencent's purchase of Path of Exile mean for you? Are there going to be any changes, new games? Is it a good or bad thing? Give us your thoughts on Tencent and their purchase of Path of Exile Grinding Gear Games in the comments below. Zach, until next week, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Zach Sharps.
Mr. Jason Winter.
Find me on Twitter at WinterInformal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there on Twitter at MagicMan1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet you all the latest news, video, articles, and everything more. Put your bombs in comments down below, and we'll put them on next week's show. Until then, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.